In late August, a group of artists, philosophers, social change agents, and business people gathered in northern Colorado to explore the stories that underlie human culture and how a more collaborative and open outlook can be encouraged on the planet. One of the participants was Laura Lynn Baker, a Métis woman of Norwegian and Ojibwa descent, who opened the conference.
So I'm very excited to see what kind of a story is going to unfold from this place. And to start out with today, I'm going to tell the story of this opogan, chanupa, this pipe. And through that story, it'll be a universal awakening, an invitation in your heart to see your own story unfolding and about the miracles that happen when you stay awake and you listen and you gather information from all the people that cross your path and you open up to your ancestral wisdom, and the great adventure is something that you can share with everyone. So, and I also know that others of you may be also pipe carriers, and I'm sure that you've studied with really amazing people. There are some incredible teachers here that are sharing their wisdom with us now, and so thank you so much for all the work that you do to hold that and any other traditions as well. I honor all of your teachers that are here smiling with you, and your teachers yourselves, so it's all good. My background is, on my father's side of the family, we are Little Shell, Anishinaabe. You may be more familiar with the terms Chippewa or Ojibwa, but we're all the same. And I am an enrolled member through our tribe in Great Falls, Montana. And when I was growing up, I really wanted to know more about the native ways. My father would not tell me a single thing. And as is the sad case in a lot of families, you don't start wanting to ask the elders until it's too late and they're gone. And my grandmother had passed away before I wanted to start asking more specific questions. I knew that we had enrollment, and that's all I knew. They sent me a check when I was 15 years old for $42, so that was official. That was my portion of the 10-cent treaty. And I put it to good use, too, I'll tell you. My dad got a check for $1,000. I don't know what he did with his money. But that was as much as I knew about my family. So what I did was I had been studying feng shui, and I decided that really fit very well with the teachers I had that were teaching me native things, because they're both traditions from the Asian culture and indigenous cultures, earth-based ones all over the earth, that understand how human beings are connected to nature. And so the similarities are, they're the same, really. They might have different language, a little bit different outer symbols, but the point is that they understand that humans are an integral part of the web of life, not separated from, except by the boundaries that we create for ourselves. So I was always fascinated with both teachings from Native and Asian, and I decided that it was just time. I'd been having so many dreams about my ancestors that I needed to find our name, that I needed to find all kinds of family information. No one in my family knew anything, and the one person who didn't want to talk about it. So I did a lot of feng shui cures in my house in the family area and in the fame and reputation area. And one day I finally hit on the right combination of things. I hung Kuan Yin in my family area, and I think some extra candles in my fame area. And within a few days I got a call from someone that ran a radio station out of Denver, KUVO. Alternative Voices was a radio show she did on Sunday. It was really early, so I'd never even heard it. So it happened like at 7 o'clock. And so when she called me up, she said, I had someone send me an article you wrote about the art of sacred homemaking using feng shui and Native American in your work, the ceremonies that you do to connect the two, and I really want to have you on our show because we interview people in the community, and would you like to be on the show? And I said, well, okay, that sounds like a lot of fun. And so I went down there, and she handed me a list of all the stations that it would be broadcast to. And it was all of the reservations across the country, so I knew that I had the ear of some of my relatives. So when I was talking about the work that I did, I made sure to put in a plug. Okay, this was my dad's name, this is my grandma's name. Does anybody know me? Please call. So that was the first wave of telling the story more than just to my immediate circle. The next phase was the universe said, okay, now you're ready. We'll give you a microphone and some radio stations and see what happens. So I actually did get a call. My last name is Baker. It's oddly enough not really related to any biological relatives at all. That's a whole other story. There's time for a lot of stories. But 2 women with the last name of Baker called me. And the first one, she said, oh, yeah, I think that that your dad might have been my cousin. And turned out we both knew crazy Uncle Louie. And I mean, I'd heard stories of him. My dad talked about him. And she had a much more favorable opinion of his ways than my dad had. So I was excited to hear her side of the story. And she was so excited that we found each other that she wanted me to come to the reservation, which is 20 miles north of the Canadian border, and it was January. And I said, can we wait till the thaw? She's like, okay, but hurry. So I filled my car up with crystals and mirrors and all kinds of different feng shui things because she reported that they were really struggling and having a really difficult time with tribal politics and people throwing bad medicine around and doing the things that people do when they're having trouble connecting to their true source of power. And so I waited till May and I went there. And I spent 2 weeks with them and I worked on everything that I knew how to do to help support them in their home with feng shui, and they were very, very open to it. And that year I attended the Sundance that was there, and I thought I was going to be learning more about the Ojibwa because in Colorado where I am, everyone is Lakota. That is, I mean, for the most part, that is the biggest tribe that is sharing their information and their ceremonies and lodges and so forth with the people in Colorado. So I'm like, oh, I know all those songs. Now I'm going to learn Ojibwa. Well, guess what they were doing? They had just brought a Lakota dance up there. So it was really beautiful, though, because the Ojibwa and the Lakota were enemies for many, many years. So it's a really wonderful healing to see that they're sharing each other's ceremonies. So I felt really honored to be present for that historical event as well. And I always, when I was working with the people on different reservations before I found my own, I saw a lot of people with pipes, and I thought it was really wonderful that so many people carried this symbol and worked with it to help heal people. But I always said, you know, if I ever get one, it's going to come from my family. But at that time, I had no idea how it would ever happen. Well, the second year I went back, my cousin told me the story that you're all becoming a part of. She had a friend in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis who was a professor at the university. Her name was Paula Giese, and she became extremely politically active in AIM, American Indian Movement, and went on the powwow Sundance Trail to the point where her husband left her because she was just gone and really involved in all these things, and it wasn't part of his life. And she had a making relative ceremony with my cousin and just got more and more into the whole culture. And then the next thing she knew, all out pre-Ward Churchill, she lost her job at the university for her political views. And then she's talking to us, she says, what is it with you people? Why am I so connected to you? I don't know. They just laughed about it. Well, later that year she decided to do some of her own family research, and she went to a little village in Germany. And when she was there, one of the old grandmas came out and said, I have something for you. Your great-grandpa went to America and he brought a native woman back here to live as his bride. And she was so homesick that he had to take her back. But she left this, and she said, someday my granddaughter's going to come looking for this. And so then, so Paula finally understood what the longing of her heart was and what that piece of the story was and why she was so drawn. And that is such an inspiration to me, to follow all of those things. Go where your heart needs to go, where you really feel called. And people around you might say you're crazy. They might not understand why you're making the incredible journeys that you are, why you're going so far out of your way to do the things you do, but don't ever give up. It's so important. There are so many beings who are watching you and guiding you and wanting you to bring that part of the story forth. They're really cheering for us, and so they'll give you so much support. So the woman gave her a bundle, and in it was this pipe, a beaded bag, and some beautifully beaded moccasins. And when Paula came back to the United States, I don't know what the time frame was, but shortly after that, she passed away. And she left everything to my cousin, including her apartment, and she had collected so many things. But the second year I went back, my cousin gave me this pipe, and she said, I've had this for a year after Paula passed away, and I didn't know what to do with it. But I see now that it's supposed to go to you because you'll take care of it. And so that part of the dream came true for me just the same as it did for Paula. When I'd been praying at the Lakota reservations that a pipe, if it was to come, would come from my family, I had no way of knowing that it would really happen. But those things are powerful when you feel that called to step up to the plate and carry on traditions and help people. You're going to just have the red carpet rolled out for you from the universe. And I'm very excited because I know that every one of you has a story about those kinds of miracles happening too, and how they all get woven together is wonderful. And this pipe, in Ojibwa it's called the Opwagan, will be assisting us to do that, because it's like a complementary kind of a broadcaster, the same way that the stupa is, so the combination will be really wonderful. There was a bag that was really disintegrating and falling apart in the pipe, and I wasn't sure what to do with it. And I ended up dancing with them on that reservation for 4 years, which is a completion cycle. And at the end of that 4 years, they gave me also a buffalo horn, and they told me to go pour water in sweat lodges. And I didn't feel like I was able to do that. That just seemed like too much. I didn't feel able to do it. There just wasn't the right place. And so I just kind of put that on the back burner, but I always worked with the pipe and always took it out if people needed help, and tried to do the best thing that I could and live a really good life and learn as much of the language as I could and so forth. And I ended up doing a vision quest at a place called Gold Lake in Colorado. And that's a whole other story that can spin out, but I'll steer us back onto this path, is that I became very connected to the people who owned the resort up there, because they asked for this pipe to help them be able to accomplish the purchase of the land, because they worked with the pipe to tell the land that they were really sincere and that they'd take really good care of the place and do the right thing there. So as a result, I did a lot of work with them for a year. And several weeks ago, I was invited to an owner's dinner where I just sat down at the only available seat right next to Karen. And within 5 minutes, I think, she had said, oh, you're the person who's supposed to do the ceremony at the stoop at the StoryField, which I'd never heard of. Okay. So that's how that story wove its way to all of us sitting here today, and it is so awesome that you're here to be the next chapter in this book that's being written about us. So at that time at Gold Lake was the first time that I finally decided that there was a lodge there that I would pour water at after all those years. And I didn't know what to put on my altar. I wanted to try to honor the Lakota and not duplicate what they do. That makes people very angry. And yet I don't have a whole lot of understanding about everything that is the way of the Ojibwa, because 9 times out of 10 when I was with my family, they were doing Lakota ceremonies. So I had to rely on what I spoke of last night, that genetic memory bank and vision, to tell me the story of how I was to conduct my ceremony so that everyone would be honored correctly. So 3 days before someone had asked me to do a naming ceremony in that first lodge that I ran for them, the vision of how to put this staff together came to me. And this is the part of the bag that was salvageable. And so I had just had all the ingredients. This is an elk, and there's rabbit and various other things, but it has to do with love medicine.